Hi everyone, it is Switchress Shay Au Lait, and today we're going to talk about the erotic, embodying the erotic, maybe some of the uses of the erotic, and what I mean when I talk about erotic noir art even. I describe myself as an interdisciplinary erotic noir artist. And I recently was having a conversation with a performer in one of my productions. And one of the things they said to me was that they felt like they weren't quite ready to be a headliner performer in one of my shows because they didn't think that they were erotic. And I want to talk about that a little bit more. Before we do, I would love to take the time to properly introduce myself in case you do not know me or in case you do know me, but maybe you're a little bit too familiar. As I said, I'm Switchress Shay Au Lait. I am equal parts playfully innocent as well as dangerously kinky. And I'm a provocative, intoxicating sorcerer and shapeshifter, originally hailing from the Windy City, which is Chicago, Illinois. That is my hometown. Don't let the glitter fool you. Definitely from the hood and the South Side. I am of SpeakEasy Noir, which is an erotic wellness and sensual movement brand, as well as Siren Pack Productions, which is an immersive and provocative nightlife, well, not just nightlife, but event company. Within all of that, I'm a producer, director, performer, and teacher that specializes in burlesque, theater, BDSM, pole dance, aerial arts, and theater. Yeah. Along with that, I'm also an educator and a keynote speaker. I've been called a vulnerability doula, an intellectual, sensual shaman, and even a badunka monk and a kinky monk. So that should give you some insight into who I am and how I blend all these things psychologically, philosophically, hierarchically, even sensually, as I choke on these words, which can work anyway because I'm into breath play and things like that anyway. So the erotic, let's talk about that. First, let's talk about a quote that I love. It's also, if you know how to search for it, I am 100% sure I'm the person who popularized this particular quote I'm about to say. And even if you've heard it and you're like, no way, trust me, like going back over maybe 15 years when I first put this quote on the internet from a book that I read. But I'm also gonna light up too. We're chilling, we're in my library, favorite books and doodads and sacred objects, artwork by Adriano, who draws me and other performers as we perform. But give me a moment. Light up too. We're gonna take our time with this one. So get something to drink or whatever ritual. I already have a candle going. SpeakEasy Noir, which is an erotic wellness brand. We make regular candles, aromatic candles, and massage oil candles. Actually, we're gonna pause. And not from a word from our sponsors, but a word from like my actual life. So I mentioned the SpeakEasy Noir candles, which is my brand as well. That's where I teach movement. Another brand I'll mention, because I'm not naked. My favorite color is my skin tone. So often my costumes are nude-ish, right? Even the dress, I'm not going to pull it up, but it's a nude thing, the skirt. But this top comes from Fashion Nova, not sponsored, but they do have a lot of shades for people of color. And so I'm really feeling that top. In the frame, we also have one of my favorite card games, Touchy Feely. Check that brand out. What else? Oh, you know what? People have been commenting on my lips. You see this color? And I know there's like a golden light, and then there's also this light. I'm in a vibe. I'm in a whatever. But these two lips, it's a blend of lipsticks. Okay. We're gonna sit that down. We'll need to smoke a whole joint right now. So this brand, I don't even know the brand, but it says Fake Love and Velvet Blur. Listen, I'm not like a regular beauty influencer where they do the thing to help the blur, and I don't know about all that shit. But there's this, and then this one probably at like a local, drugstore or beauty supply store, because I don't even know the brand either. And the color is royal purple, but I put one on each lip and mixed them together, and it was a happy accident that came to this. So there is that. All right. So my favorite quote that I am 100% sure I actually even popularized on the internet, it says, some people underestimate how erotic it is to be understood. And erotic is one of my favorite words. I pair it with sensual, sexual, erotic. So some people underestimate how erotic it is to be understood. A character says that in this book called The Memory Room, which you should read. There's so many other quotes that are amazing from that book. And the author is Mary Ricot. I can't remember which character in the fictional yet prose-like book says it. So we're just going to say Mary Ricot said it. And you can Google it now, and it's everywhere. Some people underestimate how erotic it is to be understood. So I heard that quote and loved it. I'm also familiar with Audre Lorde, who has, for instance, this quote that says, in touch with the erotic, I become less willing to accept powerlessness or those other supplied states of beings which are not native to me, such as resignation, despair, self-effacement, depression, and self-denial. Do you hear that? So like in touch with the erotic, she's less willing to accept those states of being. And when I think about states of beings, I think about states of mind and states of being. I think about flow states. I think about altered states. And these are things I'm acutely interested in, even as a switchress, as a top in BDSM, as a teacher, as a top when I am performing and the audience is receiving me. I've even said it like on my website. I'm going to read a quote because as we talk about that quote from Audre Lorde, where in touch with the erotic, they're able to remove themselves or give in to those kinds of states of being. I say on my website that I have a keen interest into the psyche, the subconscious, and altered states of mind and body. Exploring both flow state and headspace in a mindful way, erotic activation begins to happen on the divine energy spectrum. When people engage with me, especially with kink, because this might be sounding woo-woo to some of you, but trust me, it's all connected. When people engage with me, I get curious, like, are they ready for intense, sensual awareness and powerful, innocent, erotic play? I feel like BDSM, as well as performance, right? Because we're talking about erotic performance, that they are a portal to altered states of consciousness. And we're able to journey the pathway of hidden aspects of ourselves. And we can experience embodiment, expression, and flow. And even when we talk about hidden aspects of ourselves, as I'm talking about what erotic is for me, please know that this is what I teach under SpeakEasy Noir to my students, to my clients. So if we talk about hidden aspects of ourselves, that is often what can be known as shadow work, right? For me, shadow work is not anything scary. It might be unknown, and the unknown can be scary to you, but shadow work is the unknown, the unconscious, the unexamined parts of ourselves, which some of them might be hidden, but some just unknown, right? And when it comes to SpeakEasy Noir, I say that we engage in shadow play for our shadow work. Because exploring those hidden parts of ourselves and activating them helps to activate the erotic, the kinds of states of being and states of mind and altered states of body that I do want to be in. So I love that quote by Audre Lorde. There's also their essay called Uses of the Erotic as Power. And I encourage you to read that. I love it. I reread it and find new things that stand out to me. And it was in reading that where I asked myself of what use is the erotic? And asking myself that question is even what inspired an exploratory journey of my podcast even, which is called Spreadsheets and Spread Eagle. And on that podcast, I like to say that it's an occasional and moody podcast exploring the powerful intersection of sensuality, sexuality, and eroticism through the lens of cosmic spirituality and pleasure. You see how these things are starting to overlap? So if you enjoy provocative stories, subversive conversations, and transformative thoughts through my podcast, but also through all the work that I do, through my eroticism, you get to tune into bliss. It's for intensely sensuous and deeply curious souls. Because if you're deeply curious, you might be exploring the unknown. You're exploring your curiosities. You are a shadow player. And the eroticism lives there too. So more on eroticism though, because I've only spoken a little bit about it, because I've come across still a handful of people who say, I don't think I'm erotic enough to perform in your shows. So what do I personally mean by the erotic? I even say that part of SpeakEasy Noir are movement and erotic wellness, and doing it, you get to evoke and provoke your primal erotic nature. I ask my students and I ask my performers, because with performers, we do artist development as well. And I ask them to be sensual. Right? And by sensual, I am asking that you be present with your senses. That's it. So present with your sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. Because if you become present with just even those 5 known senses, of which many of us believe there are other senses as well. There are ways you sense the world and sense yourself and sense others beyond those 5. But if you start with those 5, you already become sensual, right? So I can do that even now. I'm going to encourage you. We're going to embody this even and model it so that you can see. So if I become present with my senses, even the sense of sight, right, that invites me to be intentional because I'm filming about my gaze. So I can really choose to look directly at the camera so that as you watch, I know that we're looking eye to eye. Even though I can't watch myself, but I don't need to watch myself, because when I'm having conversations with people, it's about connecting to you. So me being sensual brings me to presence and intentionality which grounds me even more in this moment. But sight for you, and whether you're a performer or whatever, wherever, however, is starting to notice what you see. And how does that begin to impact your body or your performance as you respond or take in what you see? Just noticing and taking in are two different things. And then that's even different than responding. So using sight to notice, take it in or process, and then choose to respond. That starts to tell a story. And that's just with sight, right? If I think about taste, what do I taste right now? What can I taste right now? I can taste this. So bringing presence to it, to my sense of taste as I film, I can notice how I'm touching it. I can choose how I want to touch and taste it. What did you notice about how I taste? Taste also is impacted by touch. It even impacted my gaze when and so what I see, I would choose to look at you all, but then I choose to look at it, especially when I needed to light it. Sometimes I close my eyes to take it in. So choosing sensory deprivation at times also helps me to be sensual as well. Okay, let's continue. So we have taste, we have touch, we talked about sight. What do you smell? Like literally, take a breath, because you even saw me inhale and exhale as I tasted, touched, and gazed. But take a deep inhale through your nose, pause at the top, and then melt into that exhale. I smell the cannabis and the smoke from it, but I can also smell the candle that's been burning. And I still smell my perfume. I don't have it with me right now. There are two brands that I'm wearing that I fucking love, and I do want to honor them. So, I'm tempted to like go get them to show you. Yes, yes. Oh, please. I'm still here. Okay. So as we're talking about scent, as I took it in, because we're focusing on being sensual beings right now, as we move into the erotic as well. Because I'm talking about embodying the erotic. So as in exploring what we smell, and just notice it first, right? That's the first thing we did. Just notice it. You don't even have to judge it, because we're not taking it in. We're not processing it yet. just notice, and I noticed the cannabis, I noticed the candle, and I haven't noticed the candle since I lit it. And then I noticed my smell as well. The two other things that I'm wearing, it's called Soul Cafe by Savoir Faire and Chris Classic. Am I holding this right? Yes. This is really the main cologne or perfume that I wear. It just, oh my God, it's crack. I don't even want to spray it to waste a moment, but I'll spray it on me because it's, oh my God. Listen, and I'm a primal, right? So I see primal erotic nature I talked about earlier. I just know it. Oh, then this one is called Radiant Ecstasy. And this one is created by a friend, client, industry colleague, and more, Lauren Harkness. And she said when she was working on creating this, she said she wanted it to smell like sex and dirt. And that's what it smells like eroticism in a magical, gritty forest. Oh my God. And when these two are blended, holy fuck. And they don't even smell the same on any two bodies, because I always tell people to get these two. Even though they're my favorite, I still think everyone should have them. They're not paying me to say this. This is bought with my own money. So we're talking about a few different brands. We got Touchy Feely right here. SpeakEasy Noir. We're going to put Soul Cafe right up there too. And Lauren, because I'm going to link to all those brands too, so you can patronize them as well. Oh, and I moved it because I was smoking, so I'm not going to link to that, but I will link to the brand who gave me that, or not gave me, but that brand also has cannabis, personal lubricant, and massage oil. I haven't tried this one out yet, but I've used a product akin to this. So we're going to put that there too, because this will remind me later to link back to, this is what I use in my everyday life, my real sensual life. I am a sensualist, right? Smells, taste, touch, psychological thrills with the card game, right? So we've done that smell. Another way to smell, like as a mover, like I will smell the different things. Like I will tell, what's something I can use as a quick example? So usually I tell people, my students, about this with, say, a chair. There's different ways we're so used to approaching a chair as a dancer. And there's certain like 3 moves we all do. So again, leading down the path of embodied eroticism, I invite you to bring presence to your senses. So if you thought about a chair, which most of us have access to, but you can use anything. I'm also going to use lipstick for this as well. It could be a pen. It could even be your arm. It could be the air. I just want to make this as accessible for anyone in any location as possible. But first, bringing focus to the chair. Like imagine first noticing the chair with your gaze, right? That's being sensual. And the way that you touch the chair, or the way that you could taste the chair, but smell the chair. Have you ever smelled a chair before you just threw your heel in it with that leg thing that we do, or before you sat down and did the head roll or sat backwards? Have you ever just taken a moment to not only discover and notice the chair before your chair dance while you're performing? But then have you ever chosen to smell it? Because what does a metal chair smell like different from a chair with fabric or a wood chair? Do they have different smells? And there's something that becomes so interesting when you notice someone smelling a chair, or someone choosing to smell. Like I've never smelled I've never chosen to smell like lipstick like this way. I've smelled like it uncapped, but to smell the outside. And even in doing it, I'm noticing how I'm choosing to hold my hands differently than the first time. And I'm choosing to be more dramatic as I smell it. If you're a burlesque performer, you may be noticing some of the nuances in what I'm doing, how I'm choosing to exaggerate and parody it. It's because as I choose to be more present, as I choose to process even more, I can make different choices, right? Choosing to follow my head as I smell, right? And it becomes a thing, a story, subtext, a tease, present activation. Like, why is she or they or he doing that thing? So that's smell. So we just exploring our senses starts to bring us very present with what's going on around us. And as we process our senses, we get to actively choose. Because if you chose to smell, you might want to choose to change the smell. Do you want to light incense right now? Or burn oils? Or a candle? I also have incense sand that I like to burn. Like, do you want to change the smell? So change the smell. What would make the smell feel like the scent in the room feel the most activating and alive for you right now? That answer is different for each of us. And that answer would differ for me depending on the day. Some days, what's going to activate me the most and give energy to my life force might be lavender smell. But another day, it may be lang lang, tobacco flower, and I don't know. I fucking love so many smells. Rosewood, that's another one I love, right? So what activates me shifts and changes, and what activates each person is different and varied. So right now, what smell of which you could control, how can you shift that where you are right now? I even have incense matches. So even when I'm on the go, I have 5 different scents. So just like I can smell, or I travel with oils so I can like do that or put it here even. Because when I'm smelling what I want to smell in any given moment, it changes how I exist in my body. Right? Have you noticed that ever? Try it. So if you process and you notice what you see and you're like, ugh, that's okay. How could you shift things to be more pleasant, to be more activating, to give you energy in a way? Like how could you change it? Or not? Maybe it's at the epitome of what it needs to be to feel yummy for you right now. Like, do that with all your senses. Fully activate them. It's akin to like having our chakras, and there's certain meditations and spiritual practices we can have that starts to activate and unblock those chakras. Your senses, activate them. What I notice is that when you're present with your senses, and then you're choosing your sovereignty by being empowered with your senses, changing what you taste. Let me change that again. I'm gonna light my joint. When you do the things that fully activate you, when you do the things that fully activate you, that's how you begin to embody the erotic, according to me. Everyone has their own definition of erotic. That's why I love when someone tells me that they are not erotic enough to be in my shows or to even come to my classes. I ask them what's their definition, because each of our definitions is valid to be our own personal truth and belief. And some of other people's definitions of eroticism and expand my own definitions, inform me, rebuke me. Like, I like it. I like that we all have different definitions. I do like that we all have different definitions. So please know that this is my perspective of eroticism. When I'm asking someone to be erotic, whether I'm requesting that you be in one of my shows, of which I'm going to work with you on artist development and directing, as involved as you'd like, a sounding board, rehearsal, whatever would work for you. I'm here for that. Or you're in my class and I ask you, because I always ask you to be sensual. We just went through what I'm asking by you being sensual. When I'm asking you to be erotic, I'm asking you to be present with what makes you feel completely alive in any moment. And sometimes we're like going through the motion, or you're on autopilot, or you're like 80% in it, or I get those things. But then when you can choose to be present with your senses, right, which kind of encourages us to come to at least about 80 to 99% of ourselves. And in being present, it's then the invitation to process, to adjust, right? What would make me feel the most alive and activated in this moment? Even choosing to adjust my posture would make me feel better. Taking a breath makes me feel better. Choosing to slow down makes me feel so much better. And your choices might be different. Speeding up, pausing, stopping, that might make you feel better. In 5 minutes, that might be the choice for me. But when I tune in to what gives me energy, what makes me feel the most alive, activated, sensual, present, pleasured, the erotic starts to unfold. It starts to become embodied. I'm even noticing how my tone is changing, how my body language is changing. You see that? So I think everyone, one, has had times in their life where, excuse me, I'm going to stay in it, right? But I also still need to unlock my screen with my notes because the password did its own thing. So I believe that everyone in their life has had the, oh, excuse me. And you could see my lunch there. So I believe that everyone in their life has had the experience of embodying the erotic, like that moment where you're like, I am fucking alive and I am me at my 100%. I am in flow state. I'm in that altered state, but I'm also 100% present. Like I've had that in moments or during the wholeness of a sexual experience. I've had that in moments of just like dancing. I've had that sometimes in meditation or trance-like states. Like sometimes it's been like 20 seconds or it's been like 20 minutes. I've had it in different times in my life. And I have it when I'm in this erotic experiencing that divine energy spectrum, as I mentioned earlier. So you may have had moments of it in your life already that you can go back to and tap into. But if you can't tap into it, if you don't have any experience with the eroticism, I've also just walked you through an exercise and modeled it and embodied it, where you can get present and notice your senses. You can see what they already cause your body to do. Then you can choose to shift your environment within your means to a point that you feel activated. And that activated aliveness, that energy, that potency, like that can be alchemized, but that is the erotic, that moment when you're in it. And I tell people when they're in it, linger in it. Do it again, whatever it is. Do it faster, do it slower, do it in reverse. Like stay in it for as long as you can, as long as it's real and authentic and true. And then move along until you feel it again, or until you can evoke or provoke, or it just pops up again. And I say that because I feel like every day we have the intentional choice to call in what we want to experience. In SpeakEasy Noir, I like to say that we call in power, pleasure, and play. I like to create sacred spaces and experiences through sensual movement and erotic expression. Erotic expression, which is just showing while we bear witness to your aliveness. Whatever makes you feel alive, whatever makes you feel the most yummy. I hope that's a little bit of helpful tips on what I mean by the erotic, right? Because there's even then an erotic innocence that allows for. Erotic isn't just akin to be sexual. You've never even heard, I haven't even used be sexy, sexual. I did say I think about sexuality, and that's its own thing. Another video, another micro lesson. This is like a mini workshop, mini lecture, all in one. But I did talk about the erotic. So a few things before we go, right? I've mentioned SpeakEasy Noir before. SpeakEasy Noir, and I'm referencing my notes, that's why I'm looking away. But SpeakEasy Noir is a mind-body wellness practice, an immersive movement experience for intensely sensuous and deeply curious souls. Explore power, pleasure, and play through sensual movement, erotic expression, burlesque, pole dance, freestyle flow, and creative healing arts. In my own definition of burlesque, I like to say, to make it more accessible to everyone, is extreme parody, emotional storytelling, and extravagant reveals. And that's something that every single human can do. In addition to those things, it's helpful to know like what we do. We've led movement workshops and intensives in the most sacred and pleasure-filled spaces, such as a queer tantric monastery. Yes, I got to lead this body of erotic wellness work and artistry and exploration in a queer tantric monastery in the mountains of South Carolina at a festival. I've also got to bring it, or had the opportunity to bring it, to a yoga resort in the Nosara jungle of Costa Rica, as well as amazing wellness, dance, fitness studios along the East Coast, and even virtually. I work virtually presently with students who take my immersives and intensives, as well as privates. In addition to SpeakEasy Noir, there is Siren Pack, right? When I said there are people who have said that, and this is me coming back to sensuality, right? Because I noticed I was getting a little out there again. So presence welcomes me, invites me to slow down and savor. It encourages me to bring awareness to my breath, which brings sensuality, because I smell, I talk, I taste. So I mentioned how, in talking of eroticism, there are performers who think they're not erotic enough for my shows because I cast. I am a producer and a director. Siren Pack Productions is an immersive and subversive burlesque variety company producing provocative experiences. Created in 2018 by a collective of Black queer producers, Siren Pack is known for its theatrical erotic shows, its corporate entertainment productions, and immersive event activations. As burlesque is historically considered a parody of culture, a literary genre, a sister of theater, and a fun form of variety entertainment, Siren Pack Production focuses on modern, neo-noir shows and spectacles. We're inspired by speakeasies, film noirs, temple priestesses, and vaudeville entertainment, as well as experimental performance art. Our productions are immersive and theatrical, and they often feature subversive and provocative performance art. It's helpful to know. And then lastly, there is moi. I shared a little bit about myself at the beginning of this conversation, and you are more than welcome to find out about me at shayaulait.com. Quick bites of me is like shayaulait.com/learn-more. I will put all of these in any descriptors or link in bios of where it's relevant for you to go. If you did not already know me, like I said, I am Shay Au Lait. I go by many names, including the kinky Siren Switchress. And with me, you can experience Black theatrical performance art in novel locations. I spiral erotic healing energy through performance art rituals in unique spaces such as nostalgic record stores, Gothic churches, art museums, boutique hotels, immersive speakeasy, wellness retreats, and even luxury golf resorts. Did you know those things occur? I love that about myself. Toot your horn, blow your horn, especially if you're into breath play, of which I am. I already shared with you all that I am equal parts playfully innocent and dangerously kinky. And with that, I hope that just like this talk, this embodied talk, an invitation to presence and sensuality as a pathway and portal to eroticism was useful for you. At the very least, it can be used as a modality for grounding and embodied meditation. It can also be used as a way of experiencing regulation. Emotional regulation, nervous system regulation. For those who are known to disassociate or go into an inner world, This kind of experience allows for you to be present and at a pace and intensity level that's comfortable for you to sit or edge. It's also useful for exploring movement, whether you're just a sensualist in the way that you fuck, or the way that you kink, or the way that you perform. Everybody, I think, has experienced the erotic, and I invite you to embody the erotic through this and through my other offerings. Have a yummy, erotic day. Bye, everyone.